Today's video is brought to you by first day of school nerves. Enroll in a class, you could have some too. All right, now, before we jump into this, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're probably gonna see some light glare in my glasses. Sorry about that. This is where I have to sit to limit the amount of glare coming from my glasses into the camera lens. That's why I'm not in front of the bookshelves today. But we're still talking about books. Like I said before, have a blog, and I like to review the things that I've written for my blog, so that could be reviewing posts to make sure that they're grammar-free, grammar error-free, grammatically correct. That could be me reviewing my about page, changing it as necessary, or it could be, as was the case most recently, me reviewing my rating policy for books that I rate and review. Now, as I was reviewing my rating policy and laughing at myself because I think I'm hilarious, I realized that there was a common theme in my lower star reviews, in that I based it off of specific characters, books, or authors. There are three main books that I base these lower star ratings off of, and I thought it would be fun to talk about them. I like to affectionately refer to them as the bane of my existence. I just don't like them. I'm not trying to offend you if I'm talking about one of your favorite books or authors, but yeah, these just didn't suit me. They weren't my cup of tea. I just didn't enjoy them. Maybe because they were assigned to me, I'm not sure, but let's talk about them today. There are three specific books that we're gonna talk about that I call the bane of my existence. Quite honestly, there might be more than three, but these are the three that come to mind immediately when I think about books that I don't like. All of them were assigned to me at some point in my career in education. We're gonna start with my sophomore year of high school. In 10th grade, I had one of the best English teachers probably ever. I really liked him. I liked his class. I was very excited for his class because I thought that we would get to read books like The Catcher in the Rye and To Kill a Mockingbird, because the class ahead of me got to read those books. But this specific teacher was the sort of teacher who liked to skip out his lesson plans. Like, so if he assigned The Catcher in the Rye the year before, the following class wouldn't get to read it, which is, you know, probably how I would teach. But like back then I was real mad because I wanted to read To Kill a Mockingbird. I was really excited about sophomore year specifically because of that book, but like I said, didn't get to read it. I did read it for fun after sophomore year, but that's besides the point. I wanted to read it for school, we didn't get to, and instead, the master assigned us The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. If you are not sure what The Old Man and the Sea is about, let me give you a pretty spoilery synopsis for this story. Man spends his entire life looking for this fish. He goes on a fishing expedition to catch said fish on this like canoe that he crafts. He goes out far into the sea, catches this giant fish. As he's making his way back to shore, he notices all of these predators coming up and eating the fish. Obviously, when he gets back to shore, the fish is gone. So he's wasted his whole life trying to catch this fish. He finally does. He gets to shore and it's gone, and then he dies. Now, my teacher said that Santiago, which is the main character's name, or the only character's name, is supposed to be like a Christ figure, and I get that that's important to teach in high school, but this was the absolute most depressing book I've ever read, and it completely turned me off of Hemingway for what I'm assuming is forever. I haven't picked up a Hemingway book since then, and I don't plan to because I hated that book so much. It was offered to me in college to take a Hemingway class, and I refused simply because I just could not with this book. I hated it. I can't recommend it to anybody, and I'm sorry if you like it. It's not for me. It's way too sad. One important thing to note about this book is I actually did finish it. I forced myself to finish it. When I was 15, 16 years old, I was terrified to not do assigned readings, but that changed my senior year, and we'll talk about that right after we talk about junior year of college. I don't remember specifically which class it was. I want to say that it was British literature. I know it wasn't women's lit because we read like more feminist stuff in women's lit, so I think it was British lit. We had to read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I was excited because I was like, ooh, I love Charlotte's writing. Jane Eyre is one of my favorite books, but at least in Jane Eyre there were likable characters. I hated Kathy, I hated Heathcliff, and I hated whatever Kathy's husband's name was. I skimmed this book, I did not finish it, and SparkNotes helped save the day. Sorry if you love Emily Bronte and you love Wuthering Heights, but I need to like people in order to like the books, and it just wasn't the case for this one. And now we're going to rewind back to my senior year of high school with what I like to call the ultimate bane of my existence. Senior year of high school, I had probably the hardest teacher I've ever had. At least as far as English goes, he was the toughest grader. He was an absolutely terrifying man. I still loved him. He definitely inspired me to major in English. And if I was going to be a teacher, he is exactly who I would model myself after, because he is just like a genius as far as literature goes. So most of the books that we read my senior year, I did enjoy. We read Lord of the Flies, loved it. The Crucible, loved it. Hamlet, loved it. Except for this man assigned us A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. And this was my first Dickens novel. I made it, I think, to chapter 3 before I had to give up. Now, in high school, this was like in the days before Wi-Fi came to my area and we had dial-up internet. So I can tell you that it took me a whole day to load the SparkNotes page for this book in order to not only pass the exam, but also pass my essay portion of this segment of school. I think that that book is like the whole first page is the first sentence, and like, no, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It was so boring and awful. Like, I wanted to read it because I'm like, okay, I love London, I love Paris, but oh my God, it was awful. And like, cool, the guillotine's in there, but I just like couldn't. His writing is very dry and bland, and I don't know how I even made it to chapter 3. I think this was honestly the first book that I DNF'd for an assignment. Like, I had not finished a book in 4th grade. It was like, you remember those like diary books? They were like Cleopatra's Diary or Queen Elizabeth's Diary, or this one girl who was on the Titanic's diary. That was the one I didn't finish because I hated it. I forget what those books are called, but I loved them. But the Titanic one, couldn't do it. Luckily, it was a reading is fundamental book and not an assigned book, because like I said, I didn't have courage to DNF books until this year of school, senior year of school, when I DNF'd A Tale of Two Cities. So I did pass the exam. I passed all of this gentleman's classes with A's, and I want to let you know that my A Tale of Two Cities essay is still my crowning achievement, because I got 100% on it, having never read the book, besides when I got 100% on one of my linguistics essays. So yeah, those are the 3 books that I called the bane of my existence. There might be more, like I said, but I want to hear from you, and I would love to know what books you would qualify or classify as the bane of your existence. Also, let me know if you think that my issues with these books are strictly derived from the fact that they were assigned to me, and if you have the same issues. Like, do you hate reading books that were assigned to you, or did you read them again once you finished school and enjoyed them? Let me know in the comments. And until next time, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter sometimes, but mostly on Instagram. And all of those links, including to my blog, are going to be down in the description. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.